So let me get this straight, guys. CNN just gave a national platform to a known cartel member, somebody that's connected to, all sorts of awful things like trafficking and fentanyl and unaliving people, and asked him how he feels about being called a terrorist. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Friday, May 9th, 2025. Drop a quick happy Friday in the comments, guys. And barely 24 hours later, the hammer dropped. Now, what happened next wasn't just political, it was personal. President Trump, he didn't wait. He signed a set of executive orders that immediately launched the largest deportation campaign in modern American history. And now we're getting reports from inside, footage, firsthand accounts, law enforcement sources, all confirming that what started as a CNN segment just triggered a nationwide crackdown unlike anything we've seen in decades, guys. In today's video, I'm going to walk you through the real story behind this raid footage that the media will not talk about. Why this wasn't just about immigration, but it was actually about national security, trafficking, and the deadly grip of fentanyl. Now, you're going to learn what's in Trump's newest executive orders, why certain sanctuary cities are now on high alert, and how Stephen Miller just invoked a constitutional clause that could turn this entire debate right on its head, guys. Plus, we need to look into President Trump's bold plan to bring back a prison that America thought was long gone. And of course, the shocking reason why he's considering doing it right now. Now, if you've ever wondered what happens when the media plays games with your safety and the President Trump decides that he's done playing, this is the moment, guys. So it's just getting started. If you appreciate the daily news updates, please take a second, hit the like button for the video, and be sure to subscribe to the channel for the cause. Appreciate you guys. But let's go ahead and break this down from the very beginning. So first, let's start with how this all began. CNN, I know. How many people watch CNN? Does anyone trust CNN? Just drop me a quick yes or no. Do you believe CNN? Are they trustworthy? Anyway, that particular CNN aired an interview that has left Americans stunned, brokenhearted, and even furious. Not with what was said, but who they gave the microphone to. This is a cartel member on camera speaking freely. No apology, no remorse, just bold, smug answers to softball questions. CNN didn't ask him about fentanyl, deaths. They didn't ask him about the thousands of families that were destroyed. No, they just asked him how he felt about President Trump calling him a terrorist. What do you think about that, guys? Like, let that sink in for a second. Is this journalism or is this propaganda? Which is it, right? Now, let me be clear. This wasn't some anonymous smuggler in the shadows. According to the reports, this individual had direct ties to the very cartels responsible for trafficking women, enslaving children, and pumping poison into our cities. And CNN handed him the spotlight. No accountability, no context. They let him speak unfiltered to the American people, while real Americans they're burying their kids from fentanyl overdoses. Now, Stephen Miller, Trump's top policy advisor, he basically called it out immediately. And Stephen Miller did not hold back, as a matter of fact. In fact, he said the American press was more worried about hurting the feeling. You believe this? Do these people even have feelings? He said the American press was more worried about hurting the feelings of cartel members, cartel monsters, than protecting our citizens. You can't even make this up. He reminded the country that these cartels, they're terrorists, and every illegal immigrant crossing the border is either smuggled by them or taxed by them, right? And these are the same cartels that are behind the trafficking rings, the drugs, and the different assassination campaigns across the Western Hemisphere. And CNN, they gave them a voice. Now, if you think President Trump was just going to go ahead and sit back and do nothing while the corporate media humanized America's most dangerous enemies, think again, guys, because what came next, it changed everything. In fact, we're going to dive into how the White House responded just hours later with sweeping new executive orders and the largest deportation operation in decades. And you're going to want to hear exactly what those orders said, because this wasn't just about politics, guys. It was war. So stick with me. But if your parents are over 65 years old or over, here's a gift that's better than flowers or a phone call. I know Mother's Day is coming up, but here's a better gift than even that: peace of mind. Guys, Chapter helps people like your mom, your dad, your grandparents find the right Medicare plan, one that covers their doctors, saves them money, and it protects their future. Julie in Kansas is now saving $400 a year. Jamie in Texas is now getting back $600 in her Social Security. How do you think your parents would feel about that? How would you feel if you got an extra $600 back? And you know what's funny? The average person, the average senior is saving about $1,100 per year with Chapter. Chapter's advisors, they treat people like family, honestly, because the reason why Chapter even was started is because their own parents got taken advantage of. So you already know that their heart's in the right place. Anyway, so you can give Chapter a call right now at 909-563-8279, or you can visit them at askchapter.org/Ron. I'll even leave a link for you guys in the description down below of this video. Now, guys, the moment that Cartel interview aired, the White House, they moved fast. President Trump, he already fired up over the ongoing border prices as it is. He saw the CNN segment as the final straw. That was it. Within hours, his administration issued a series of explosive executive orders, not just to stop illegal immigration, but to go on the offense. And so these weren't just symbolic. These were orders with teeth. One executive order directly targets sanctuary cities, stripping protections from jurisdictions that are harboring criminal aliens and blocking ICE from doing its job. Another EO directed Attorney General and Department of Homeland Security to begin publicly naming and shaming every state and local obstructing federal immigration enforcement. Cities like Chicago, cities like San Francisco, cities like New York City, they're now on notice. But that was just a start, actually. President Trump also expanded federal authority over local law enforcement in areas where cartel activity is suspected, meaning federal agents, they no longer need to wait for permission to act. Now, let me be crystal clear here, guys. These orders were not random. These were a direct response to the cartel being aired on TV like some celebrity guest. And Trump made it known, look, if the media is not going to defend the American people, he will. And mark my words, guys, he backed that promise with the most aggressive immigration action we've seen in years. Now, some people, a lot of the Democrats are not supporting him. Look at Adam Schiff, look at Jasmine Crockett, look at Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, you name it, right? But if you support Trump, drop a 47 in the comments down below. But if you support the Democrats' agenda, just drop in the word Democrats down below. But here's where things go from serious to shocking. And by the way, for those of you guys who are just now joining live, please take a second and hit the like button for us. It really does help us to overcome the YouTube algorithm that, sometimes, I don't know, I feel like our message doesn't get out there for some reason. But it's a daily battle that we deal with. So I do appreciate you guys subscribing and hitting the like button. But here's where things get real crazy here. Because just as those executive orders are being signed, reports started flooding in. We're talking about like ICE raids happening in multiple cities. And then something leaked. The footage leaked. So I need to tell you guys what was captured. Like what Operation Tidal Wave exposed. Have you guys heard about that? Operation Tidal Wave? And why President Trump's harshest critics are all of a sudden going silent. So don't go anywhere, guys, because the details are jaw-dropping. It's crazy. I can't believe what we just uncovered here. And this is where the story takes a really dramatic turn, because probably just days after CNN gave a cartel member a platform, and just hours after President Trump signed his emergency executive orders, something big leaked, and it wasn't supposed to get out. We're talking about real-time reports and internal footage from what insiders are now calling Operation Tidal Wave. This is a joint ICE and DOJ campaign already underway before the ink dried on those executive orders. And let me tell you guys, this wasn't some photo op. According to sources, in just the first 4 days alone, nearly 800 illegal aliens were arrested. But not just any illegal aliens. These individuals, this was targeted enforcement. Guys, we're talking confirmed MS-13 gang members, a Colombian national wanted for murder, a Russian fugitive flagged for manslaughter by Interpol. These raids were not random. They were precision hits carried out across the country, including one shocking Sunday morning raid that took place on an underground cartel-linked nightclub in Colorado Springs. Do you guys remember what was going on in Colorado? Remember that? Do you guys remember what was going on in Colorado? Remember the apartment complex that was getting taken over? Do you guys remember the pets that were getting cooked? Anyway, over 100 illegal aliens were taken into custody in that one operation alone, right along with weapons, drugs, and, what sources described as evidence of some trafficking activity. Now, Imagine being a family in one of those neighborhoods. You've seen overdoses, crime, intimidation, fear, and for the first time in years, these people are being removed. And just think about the contrast. Like, while CNN is asking cartel members about their feelings, Trump is out here deploying ICE and DOJ teams in the dead of the night, sending out the FBI, cleaning out the very monsters that CNN refused to condemn. So this wasn't just enforcement, this was a message being sent. And the leaks, they confirmed that President Trump's not playing defense anymore. No, he's taking the fight directly to the networks, to the cartels, and to the cities that protected them. And so now, if you're worrying or wondering how these massive raids are even legal and how the federal government is steamrolling past local jurisdictions and that basically used to shield these criminals, that's because President Trump changed the game again. Now, coming up, guys, I got some notes here that I definitely want to cover. I definitely want to talk to you guys about the exact language that was inside these executive orders. Man, the craziness, right? But more importantly, why the left-wing sanctuary cities are panicking right now, or even worse, some of them are staying silent, knowing that they're on a collision course with the federal law. So, because what is also coming up, this could reshape immigration enforcement in America for good. So, let's talk about what's really making some of the mayors of these sanctuary cities sweat. All right. You know who I'm talking about. Mayor of New York. I think he's actually coming around, though. Mayor of New York. We also have the mayor of Chicago. Now, he's not coming around. I'll tell you that much. But when President Trump signed these new executive orders, he didn't just direct ICE to go after violent criminals. He went after the cities themselves, the very places that have harbored, they've protected these people. They even celebrated illegal aliens, no matter how dangerous they were. So the first order, well, it forces the Department of Justice and Homeland Security to publish a list of every state and city that's obstructing federal immigration enforcement. So what this means is locations, specific crimes, all laid bare for the public to see. Now, the second order, it goes even further. This one grants expanded federal powers to override local resistance, particularly in cities where local police have been ordered not to cooperate with ICE. In other words, Trump's saying, hey, if your city's out here protecting illegal gang members, we're coming through anyway. These aren't empty threats. The Trump administration is already preparing to withhold federal funds, reroute enforcement resources, and even deploy military assistance if needed. Can you imagine seeing tanks rolling through the neighborhood, clearing things out? Instead of asking serious questions like how the administration is going to enforce these orders or what the timeline looks like, we had White House reporters asking, why hasn't Mexico paid for the wall? Seriously? Meanwhile, cities that once proudly waved the sanctuary city banner, they've gone quiet because they know this time is different. This ain't campaign talk. This is federal action backed by the full force of the executive branch. And it's justified by the skyrocketing crime rates and the cartel activity within their own communities. But if you think that's the most craziest number that we got, think again, guys, because I'm going to share with you guys the before and after numbers that actually prove that President Trump's new policies didn't just make headlines. They've already changed the border. And when you hear the difference between this April versus last April, you're going to understand why even his critics are completely stunned. So stick with me because these numbers don't lie. Those of you guys just now joining the live, thank you so much for hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. And drop a quick 47 in the comments if you support President Trump's deportation efforts, cleaning up the streets, and removing these criminals from the country. Now, let's talk numbers because this part's really jaw-dropping. While the media was freaking out, they're obsessed over the optics and cartel feelings, the Trump administration was quietly locking down the southern border, and the results, well, they're historic. So let me give you the one number that's literally going to stop you in your tracks, right? So this April, as of the latest reporting, only 9 illegal aliens were released into the interior of the United States. 9, compared to that of last April under the previous Joe Biden administration, 184,000. Guys, that's not a typo. That's not exaggerated. That's the real before and after snapshot of what happens when a president prioritizes border security over political correctness. That's like a 99.99999% drop in interior releases. This is what operational control of a border actually looks like. So how did we get here? According to the administration. It's the result of a multi-action, multi-agency crackdown involving Border Patrol, ICE, the U.S. military, and some of these new executive orders that, not only executive orders, but new executive directives that the Trump administration is backing. Illegal crossings haven't just been stopped. They've been intercepted before smugglers even get across. Detainment protocols are tighter, loopholes are closing, and the cartels, they're losing control of their most profitable pipeline. We're not just talking about reduced immigration. We're talking about disrupting a billion-dollar trafficking network that's been bleeding this country dry for years. And this is just the beginning. Because Trump's goal, as he said, it's not just to manage the border, it's to end the crisis permanently. But there's a whole nother layer to all of this that the press refuses to touch. They don't want to talk about it. Trump's not just treating cartels like criminal organizations. He's actually calling them what they really are, terrorist groups. So we need to talk about what this means legally and more importantly, why it changes everything about how we deal with them and how it gives the U.S. military and law enforcement new powers that they've never had before in this immigration fight. So this is crazy. Now, I don't want to see tanks rolling down my street. I'm just saying. But here's where things shift from law enforcement to counterterrorism. President Trump, along with his top advisors like Stephen Miller, isn't just calling cartel leaders criminals. He's calling them terrorists now. And that's not just political rhetoric. That's a strategic classification. That's a strategic naming nomenclature that they're using now. One that unlocks an entirely different set of tools on how we get to deal with them. So once cartels are labeled as foreign terrorist organizations, also known as FTOs, under U.S. law, the government can freeze their assets, track and intercept communications globally, prosecute anyone who provides them with material support, including U.S. citizens, and even authorize military force to dismantle their infrastructure inside or outside the country. Now, ask yourself this. Why is all this necessary? Well, it's because these cartels are no longer just smuggling operations. They're now multinational networks involved in trafficking, arms dealing, political intimidation, and fentanyl epidemic that's killed over 100,000 Americans annually. Stephen Miller, he came out, he made it brutally clear. He said that, hey, these are not groups you negotiate with. These are enemies of the United States. And if CNN and MSNBC, or I should say, as Trump says, DNC, won't call them out for being what they are, the Trump administration just did. By formally escalating the fight, Trump is putting cartels in the same legal category as Al-Qaeda or ISIS. Is it bold? Is it controversial? You tell me. But many people are saying this is exactly what many Americans have been demanding for years. Do you guys support this? Let me know. Let me know if you support this, guys. But now I think it's pretty clear the gloves are off. There's one proposal that's on the table that's got everybody talking right now, though, and including President Trump's inner circle. This is a plan to revive a prison that's so infamous it became a legend. And if you think that this is just political talk, symbolism, or whatnot, wait till you hear why Trump believes Alcatraz is coming back. Not as a museum, but as a warning. Now, trust me, you want to hear this one, so stick with me, all right? So let's talk about a name that strikes fear and fascination in equal measure, Alcatraz. Now, this is probably one of the most notorious prisons in America. It's now a top tourist stop in San Francisco Bay. But if Trump gets his way, that island may not stay a photo op for much longer. Now, let me ask you this. Have you ever visited Alcatraz? Anybody want to visit Alcatraz, as a museum? I think it would be kind of cool to check out, but it definitely seems very scary. Imagine you go in as this museum and they decide to keep you there. I'd be freaked out because I don't think I would be able to get out of there. Anyway, this is in the wake of the new wave of raids, executive orders, and cartel crackdowns. The Trump administration is currently openly discussing the revival of Alcatraz. They're talking about this as a fully operational maximum security federal prison. Why? Well, according to Trump, America needs a place to house the worst of the worst. The traffickers, the gang leaders, the foreign agents, and the unrehabilitable monsters that really have no business ever walking free again. And let's be honest, guys, there are some criminals who just won't stop, who won't change, and who treat the U.S. justice system like it's a revolving door. Now, Trump's idea isn't about incarceration. It's about visual separation. A bold, permanent statement that says, hey, look, you are done. You will never live among the American people again. Stephen Miller, he addressed the pushback, critics claiming that the Alcatraz facility is outdated, or maybe it's too costly to maintain. Stephen Miller, he said plainly, look, this country knew how to take care of villains once. We can do it again. He even emphasized that modern travel and logistics, they make resupplying the island a non-issue. But more importantly, Stephen Miller explained that reviving Alcatraz could help cripple cartel communications. Why? Because if you isolate gang leaders in a place that's literally surrounded by water, it's cut off from society, it makes it way harder for them to run operations from inside prison walls. And if you're wondering whether this is just a symbolic idea to get headlines, I don't think so. This plan, it really does line up with President Trump's broader push to just kind of like show zero tolerance, send a loud and clear message to criminal networks that, and also remind America's enemies, you don't get to destroy families and walk free. You disappear. But here's a question that it's probably on your mind right now. Is this even constitutional? Like, can President Trump really use federal power to like this aggressively? Well, according to one clause in the U.S. Constitution, not only can he's obligated to do so. So I'm going to share with you guys the exact language that Stephen Miller just invoked that reframes this entire debate, not as immigration policy, but as constitutional emergency. Now, guys, this part changes everything. All right. So let's answer the question that a lot of people are asking. Can Trump really do all of this stuff? Like the raids, the executive orders, the military deployments, the possible reopening of Alcatraz. Aren't these radical judges going to try and block him? Maybe. But according to Stephen Miller, not only can he must. And it all comes down to one critical line in the U.S. Constitution. Article 4, Section 4. The United States shall guarantee to every state in the Union a republican form of government and shall protect each of them against invasion. Think about it, guys. Let that sink in. Shall protect each of them against invasion. Now, Miller argues, and Trump agrees, that the mass influx of illegal aliens, the cartel control of border crossings, and the violent criminals and the violent crime that's spilling into American communities qualifies as exactly that, as an invasion. Now, under the clause, the president isn't just allowed to act, he is constitutionally obligated to protect the states. That means, guys, deporting illegal aliens who pose a threat, overriding sanctuary jurisdictions that interfere, and even using the military to secure the border and restore lawful order. So this isn't just Trump flexing his authority. It's Trump invoking one of the oldest and most foundational duties of the presidency. So now compare that to what happened under Biden. Miller called it a constitutional crisis where the government refused to act. They refused to act as states were getting flooded with fentanyl, trafficking, and cartel-backed violence. So when Trump moves fast, when he signs orders, launches raids, and calls out sanctuary cities, that's not politics. That's presidential duty. Plain and simple. So let me know what you guys think about this, right? Now, who's helping lead this charge behind the scenes? Because it's pretty clear that this ain't just a one-man operation. Well, President Trump is actually surrounding himself with some serious people, not career bureaucrats or DC figureheads, but fighters. So two names keep rising to the top. You got Stephen Miller and you got Marco Rubio. So let's start with Marco Rubio, right? Under President Trump's current administration, Marco Rubio is serving as a national security advisor, and according to insiders, he's been instrumental in negotiating international deportation agreements with foreign governments. Countries that used to refuse to take their criminals back. They're now facing serious consequences, including visa bans and trade penalties until they comply. Now, Marco Rubio, he's been called the Kissinger of our time by Trump's own team, which is no small praise. So behind the scenes, another name starting to gain a lot of momentum. You guys heard his name a lot during this video, Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller is Trump's deputy chief of staff for policy. He's the architect that's behind the immigration, the national security policies that we've been talking about. And now there's some serious talk that President Trump, he's considering Stephen Miller as a possible replacement for Mike Waltz as national security advisor. That shakeup could occur. Why? Because Stephen Miller he's not afraid to say what a lot of politicians won't. Now, y'all let me know. Should Mike Waltz get replaced by Stephen Miller? Just drop a quick yes or no in the comments. I want to see where you stand on that one. Miller, he'll say anything. That some people just cannot be rehabilitated. That cartels must be crushed like terrorist networks. And the American sovereignty isn't up for negotiation. That's what Stephen Miller is willing to say. Now, guys, if you found this video powerful, if you believe more Americans need to see what's happening right now, do us a favor, do the movement a favor. Share this video, leave a comment, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel because the next phase of this fight is already underway, and it's not just policy anymore. This is survival for America, guys. And if you are 65, if your parents are 65, give them the best gift of all time. See if you can save them some money through a free service using Chapter. I'll leave a phone number and a link in the description down below if you want to hit up Chapter online. Super friendly people. It's completely free. Worst case scenario, they can't help you. Best case scenario, you could save hundreds, if not thousands, with their help. Give them a quick call. Hit them up on the website. Link in the description down below of this video. We'll see you guys on the next one, Patriots.